Welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast, powered by Siemens. And now your host, Niall Sullivan.
So a very important aspect of that. So be open to the idea that there's different ways to, to speak in in tired old phrases. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yes, exactly. I think we've had a few phrases already, but that does. And no offense to cats, I have two cats, so need to be careful with that. But no, absolutely. And in terms of, I guess, putting together these RFPs, it's not just one department's responsible, right? It's there's many departments responsible. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that. What input should someone get when putting together an RFP, especially when you're talking about sort of an enterprise level product?
Excellent question. Give me a moment to think, craft an answer for that. I would say that you need to involve the maintainers. Sometimes what looks good on paper doesn't actually fly there in the shop. You need to get the input of maintainers. What is their pain point? What problems, what challenges do they face? Another group you want to include is going to be the reliability engineer or the maintenance planner. How can they plan for maintenance across multiple lines, areas, facilities, and look at actual plants? You want to have IT involved with that. IT is going to be very important because you're going to have to deal with security questions. How can we get data securely, both at rest and in transit, and make sure that there's no possibility of information bleeding out to somewhere else? So we want to make sure that the IT is involved. Keep in mind that this is a low-code, no-code. I would actually say no-code, but that's not entirely true. It's a no-code application. It's completely turnkey. You don't have to have any programmer at all to run this, but you want IT in there just to make sure that security is taken care of properly, especially across the OT-IT interface, something of that nature. You want to have a PDM champion in the business. You want to make sure that somebody is going to own this process. It's their specific project that they're responsible for, that they want, that they believe in. We've seen many cases where you'll get someone who brings in a PDM program, either from us or from a vendor or from a competitor or internally, and there's no buy-in across multiple areas. And so what that means is that if they don't buy into the idea, then it doesn't get used, and then it becomes a failure. So you want to make sure that internally you actually have a PDM champion, someone who's going to really, truly spread the gospel of PDM throughout the organization and help people to understand why it matters and why it is so effective. You want to also make sure that the program is right-sized. You don't want it to be too small. You don't want it to be too big. You have to make sure that it fits within the budget. So you have that champion that's going to take on that role. That's primarily the main characters that I would involve, the main departments, simply because you want to set the table for the highest possibility of success.
And mate, I guess the RFP comes maybe from a central procurement department, but would you say the role of the champion as well? I know it's to drive usage and encouragement to use the platform and how to get the most out of it, but would they be sort of a central part of putting together the RFP, or is that not a fixed rule around that? I guess
let me back up. The ones who have had the most successful deployments of predictive maintenance programs have been when the buy-in is across multiple departments, across multiple areas. And I really do believe that even if the RFP comes from the central planner or the central purchasing area, I believe that they need some input from someone who's passionate about getting this done. That person will want to give guidance to make sure that the right questions are asked. Additionally, one thing that I think is important that I've seen, the ones that are most successful are those that give an opportunity for questions to be asked. So they may say, okay, on this date, and then 2 weeks after that, we have another date where would you submit your questions to the RFP, so that many times we'll get a question that's written by someone who's more technical rather than communications oriented. And a little clarification goes a long way in making sure that we're providing the answers that are being sought after.
And also what you were saying before about bringing in stakeholders, I guess, at the earliest opportunity. So I guess there's been examples where, I'll just say IT, is that the example where, it's been maybe driven by maintenance department, and then towards the end of the process, IT have been informed, and then that's where, where it's fallen down. I guess, is that a scenario that you sort of recognise, David?
Yes. It's a bit of an inside joke in that if you ask IT, all the answer is always no. No. Can we do this? No. Can we do that? No. And so there's a reason why many of our prospects, many of our customers will include IT after there's already been a groundswell of support in place, so that they have a little internal. And I said, I don't mean to trivialize that, but security is a real issue. But you want to make sure that the stakeholders are indeed invited in at the earliest feasible stage to make sure that the concerns are addressed right up front, and so that an RFP can be crafted in a just a good way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just wanted to shift gear. So another part of RFPs, I guess, is sort of the scope and the timeline expected for the project. And you'll be able to tell, say better than me, David, but projects, if we're talking about Senseye Predictive Maintenance projects, each one is different in its own way in terms of length, in terms of scope, in terms of everything else. But how can, I guess, from a customer or prospect perspective, how can they sort of align that in their head for, for their timeline for the project?
I would say that it's an interesting question, and it has kind of an answer that says it depends. It depends on the reasons why they want to do this. Some companies will get some RFPs that come in where everyone has heard about AI-powered PDM, and they're just excited. They want to get in on this. They're hearing all sorts of stories of success and savings and incredible improvements in the entire process. So they want to get in because they don't want to be left behind, but they're not necessarily motivated to understand PDM just for the science sake. So I don't know that I have a good answer for that, other than to say timeline. The earlier you start, the better. I think it's wise. In fact, one of the best solutions that we have provided for a customer has been in for a major international automobile manufacturer who they spent about a year doing the RFP process. And they took time to understand the questions, understand the answers, understand the failure modes, understand everything that is involved with implementing a predictive maintenance program. And so when they selected us, they'd gone through a year and easily a dozen of the top PDM programs out there. And when they selected us, they said, okay, we've got to make sure that we're reducing our year-over-year unplanned downtime by 50%. Well, we were able to blow that number out of the water in the first quarter. So naturally, we started expanding and learning about scalability and how things are applicable across multiple locations. But we also learned about timeliness and how long does it take to onboard something? Can we onboard something within a day, within an hour, or is it going to take months, as some of our competitors might do? I think that giving our customers a legitimate understanding of the timeline, rather than have a prescriptive timeline thrust upon you, say, hey, we have to have it done by this time. Help them understand through a collaborative effort what is required to move forward in the way that will produce the best results is helpful.
Yeah, exactly. So it shouldn't be something, from either side, shouldn't be not forced upon, but set by either side. It's more of a collaboration between the two, because there's priority of the customers to see value, and obviously from the vendor side, they want enough time to be able to show value, I guess, is the balance we're going for here.
Let's give an example of that. If they're considering the older the old school method of doing predictive maintenance, they're going to automatically put in between 6 and 9 months just for a single asset type observation by data scientists into that solution. Whereas another solution, such as Senseye Predictive Maintenance, could already have been implemented and producing results within that same time frame that may be take longer with other companies. So you want to work on a collaborative effort to make sure that expectations are realistic and lead to the best possible outcome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just wanted to, as we come very quickly through everything and covered quite a lot in the short time we've been speaking, David. But I guess just to sort of try and round things up a little bit or get to that stage, in terms of incorporating feedback from potential vendors, have you seen some sort of best practices in that way? Because there's one thing asking the questions, but it's also encouraging vendors to give, really rich, detailed answers to those questions to help them, understand that process, especially if it takes a year to sort of, and it's understandably can take a long time to go through that process. But yeah, I guess from that point of view.
To be fair, the one that took a year had a very non-traditional approach. However, some of the common practices that we've seen that are very helpful is they will ask a question and then they will give some possible answers, say column A, column B, column C, column D, and then they will give a weighted scoring matrix to the answers within RFP. What answer most closely fits your ability to do something? And this helps them to account for aspects that they feel are more important or less important, so that not every question has an equal weight. They want to be able to focus their attention on what matters most to them and prioritize the higher scores in specific areas. We also want to make sure that they are removing that. Earlier you mentioned bias from earlier failures they may have encountered. You want to remove bias. You want to make sure that the decision is data driven. You want to make sure that they're looking at what's best for them, not necessarily what maybe caused them pain or suffering from a previous attempt. So one way to do that is by using the weighted scoring matrix within the questions of their RFP. Yeah,
no, it makes absolute sense. It does. So I guess just before we finish, I think the best way, we do this quite often on the podcast as well, is maybe, David, if you could just summarize the sort of 3 takeaways for people to think about if they're thinking of putting together an RFP for predictive maintenance solution. What are the top 3 things they should consider when doing this?
Okay. I would say understand the problem. What are you trying to solve? We get a lot of questions where people don't actually understand what it is they're trying to solve. Understand where you are in terms of data infrastructure, sensors, measures that are available, what PLCs, what SCADA systems, what systems do you have in place, or CMMS? You want to understand what you have and what gaps need to be filled. And so therefore an RFP should address how can your solution, your PDM solution, fit within our existing system. And you want to do it in a way that is financially responsible for the company. The third thing I would say is be open to the idea that there are multiple ways to solve the same problem. Some may use a data scientist and a model approach. Some may use a different advanced pattern matching approach. Some may use yet another different type of approach. Be open to the idea and invite collaboration and invite discussion rather than just yes/no questions.
Yeah,
that would be my takeaway. Is invite discussion to understand the process better.
Yeah, I think really good takeaways there. I think the last one sort of resonates quite well because it's the same thing in life. If you ask yes or no questions, you're not going to get. If you're having a conversation with someone, then it closes off the conversation. But I guess from my limited experience of RFPs, it's about opening it up, isn't it? It's like opening up to get more information, not yes or no's don't really add to your knowledge, do they? Or insights?
Correct. So our request for a proposal isn't just asking for a price. price and delivery is what they're looking for, but in a broader perspective, they want to make sure that it is applicable. The solution is actually going to solve the problem, and that the organization that they work with is going to be those who are resources, who provide services that will help people get this implemented. With such a high rate of failure internally that we see, they're going to be a little bit sensitive to the idea. They don't want to fail again. They want an organization to partner with that's going to help them and their people understand how to effectively deploy that. And so, I put in a plug for Senseye. That's actually what we do. That's what I do.
You're in the right place to plug Senseye, David. So that's fine.
Yeah. Well, that's literally so much feedback from the customers when they had previously just been so frustrated they didn't even know where to go for answers. Who do you ask for answers to some of these difficult questions? So yeah, to be a collaborative partner in something and moving forward is very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I think, like I said, again, to plug Senseye Predictive Maintenance a little bit, and the wider Siemens approach, it's very much a collaboration, and that's what I've seen, from my experience seeing some of these projects as well. So, which is key.
Completely agree. I should have mentioned that as well. The entire Siemens team is incredibly effective at doing that, at working together, be it hardware, be it software, be it services. It's just a really tight-knit organization.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're one part of a very wider story and a very wider team, which can really deliver results, if given the opportunity. But yeah, no, I think we've covered it all. Well, maybe not all, but if we haven't, we can certainly do a follow-up episode, I'm sure, at some point, David. It's been too long since your last appearance, so I won't leave it so long. But thank you for your time and your thoughts today. It's been really interesting for me to learn.
Thank you, Niall. It's been a pleasure. Anytime.
Great. And thank you everyone out there for listening as well. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Please like and subscribe on all major podcast channels, and find out more about Senseye Predictive Maintenance at Siemens.com.